Welcome to Crypta Librorum, the hidden library where fear tells its tales. Let's open today's page and find out what fear has in store for us.
You know what Valentine's Day actually is? It's a test. And you're terrified you're going to fail it. Not the did I buy the right gift test. It's deeper than that. It's the test of whether you're capable of intimacy at all. Whether you know how to love correctly. Whether there is something fundamentally broken inside you that makes connection impossible. And you've been taking this test for 2000 years. Let me show you something. It's February the 14th, Rome, 270 AD. A priest named Valentine is being dragged through the streets. They beat him with clubs first. They break his bones. They make him bleed. Then they put him up on his knees and cut his head off. Why? Well, because he performed marriages. Because he connected people when connection was forbidden. Fast forward February the 15th, ancient Rome, any year between 600 BC and 500 AD. Young men are running naked through the streets, covered in blood, whipping women with strips of freshly flayed goat skin. The women line up for it, they volunteer for it. Because if they don't get hit, if they're not chosen, if they're not marked by blood, maybe they're defective. Maybe they'll never have children. Maybe they'll die alone. Same day, same fear, different blood. Here's what nobody tells you about Valentine's Day. It's not about celebrating love, it's about performing it. No, don't get it wrong. It's proving you can do it. It's showing you're not broken. And the origins, they are so much darker and so much more honest than anything any store ever told you. Let me take you back to ancient Rome again, mid-February, the Lupercalia festival. It's the 15th of February and you're standing in a crowd at the base of Palatine Hill near a cave called Lupercal. The place where a sea-wolf supposedly nursed Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome. The air smells like iron and smoke. The Luperci priests are here. Young men, aristocratic, are chosen for this. They are just sacrificed goats, animals that represent pure sexual instinct, raw fertility, and a dog. The altar is soaked with blood. Two of the priests step forward. Another priest takes the sacrificial knife while wet with goat blood and smears it across their foreheads, blood running down their faces. Then someone wipes it off with a wool dipped in milk. Now blood and milk mixing on their skin as they laugh. They have to laugh. It is required because it's part of the ritual. Then the feast. They eat the sacrificed goats while other priests cut the animal skins into strips. Fibrua, they call them, or februa, I'm not sure. Purifiers. Leather strips made from freshly flayed goat hide. Still warm, still bloody. The priest strip. Some accounts say completely naked, others say they wear the goat skins around their hips. Either way, they're mostly bare, covered in blood, holding these leather strips, and then everyone runs. They run through the streets of Rome in a wide circuit, and anyone in their path, they hit them. They whip them with a bloody goat hide. Now, here's where it gets specific. Women line up for this, especially young women, newly married women, women trying to get pregnant. They actually stand in the route. They extend their hands, and some accounts say they bare their thighs. They offer themselves to be struck. Because they believe, genuinely believe, that being whipped with bloody goat skin will make them fertile, will ensure an easy childbirth, and will prove that they're capable of bearing children. But let's be real about what's happening here. This isn't just about fertility magic. It's about being chosen. It's about being marked, being seen as worthy of a connection, a family, and a future. What happens if you're not in that street? What does it mean if you stay home, if you're not struck, if you're not part of that ritual? Does that mean that you're deficient? Does it mean that you're cursed? Does this mean that you're incapable? The Lupercalia ran for over 1,000 years. Every February the 15th, naked men covered in blood, whipping women in the streets, and women voluntarily standing there because the alternative would mean that being alone, being unmarked, being excluded from the ritual of pairing was worse than being hit. By the 3rd century AD, the voluntary part gets murkier. There's a mosaic showing two men forcibly holding naked women down while a third whips her thighs. Her face shows clear pain, and the men are laughing because they're drunk. The crowd watching like it's entertainment. This is what love looked like. Violent, public, performed. A test you could fail in front of everyone. Oh, and there might have been a matchmaking element too. Men drawing women names from a jar, forced pairing for a year. Your partner chosen by lottery. No choice, no agency. Just here's who you will be intimate with. Perform or be exposed as incapable. Does it sound romantic yet? Now, let's talk about the saint. Here's the thing. We don't actually know who Saint Valentine was. There were at least 3 martyrs named Valentine who died around February 14th in the 3rd century. Maybe they're all the same person. Maybe they're different people whose stories are blurred together. Nobody can tell for sure. So here's what we know. Version 1. Valentine was a priest in Rome during the reign of Emperor Claudius II, or Claudius the Cruel. The empire was falling apart. There were wars everywhere. So they needed soldiers desperately, but men did not want to join the army because they did not want to leave their wives and families. So Claudius solved the problem. He banned marriage, just straight up made it illegal to get married or even engaged. If men can't have families, they'll make better soldiers. Problem solved. Valentine said no. He performed marriages anyway. Secret marriages, in the dark, behind closed doors. Young couples would come to him and he'd connect them, bless them, bind them together when binding was forbidden. He got caught, he was arrested and brought before the emperor. And here's the real interesting stuff. Claudius liked him, he was impressed by him. He offered him a deal to renounce Christianity and worship the Roman gods, as that was something that almost always happened back then. And if that happened, he would let Valentine live, maybe even become best friends. Valentine refused, and then, and this is the ballsy part, he tried to convert the emperor to Christianity instead. Well, as you can clearly guess, that went poorly. They beat him with clubs, broke his bones, stoned him, and finally, on February the 14th, maybe around 270 AD, they dragged him to Via Flaminia, the road out of Rome, and cut his head off. The second version. Valentine was the bishop of Terni, a town in Umbria. He healed people, miraculously even cured a student whose head had been stuck between his knees for 3 years. He cured a girl's blindness. These miracles led into conversions, which led to the arrest, which led to the same ending. Beaten, beheaded, buried on the Via Flaminia. Version 3. There was another Valentine in North Africa, martyred around the same time. That's all we know, just another Christian killed for his faith. So which one is the real Saint Valentine? Maybe all of them, maybe one of them. Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is what the story says. Connection is worth dying for. Love is worth defying empires for. And if you can't perform it correctly, if you choose the wrong one, the wrong way, the wrong person, you'll be beaten and beheaded on the side of a road. That's the heritage. That's what we're being celebrating. Oh, and from your Valentine thing, legend says Valentine wrote a note to the jailer's daughter, the blind girl that he healed, the one who fell in love with him before his execution. He signed it from your Valentine. His last act before being beheaded, proving he could perform intimacy correctly, even at the moment of death. Okay, so you're thinking, that's interesting history, but what does ancient Rome has to do with me? I'm not whipping anyone with goatskin. I'm just trying to figure out dinner reservations. Here's the ugly truth. The form changed, the fear did not. Lupercalia isn't about literally fertility anymore. We have other means for that, but the question underneath, am I capable of a connection? Am I defective if I'm not chosen? That still remains, that's still there. You know, that panic when February rolls around and you're single. That's not just, oh, I'm alone. It's deeper. It's what's wrong with me? Why am I alone? It's am I fundamentally incapable of intimacy? You know that anxiety when you're in a relationship and you have to plan the perfect Valentine's date. That's not just logistics stress. It's, am I performing love correctly for my partner? Will I be exposed as inadequate? You know that weird saying when someone asks, what are you doing for Valentine's Day? And your answer is, nothing. That's not about the holiday. That's about being unmarked, unchosen. Being outside of the ritual. The bloody goat skin became a diamond ring, flowers, teddy bears, dinners. Are you capable of pairing? Can you perform intimacy or not? The question is identical as it was back then. And here's the thing that makes it even worse. It's all performed publicly now. Instagram stories of different perfect dates, Facebook relationship status updates, everyone watching everyone else prove they're capable of love. Almost worldwide. You're still in the streets, being struck or not struck. It's just digital streets now. And everyone can see who got chosen and who failed. Dating apps are the name jar. You swipe right, you swipe left, random pairing based on arbitrary criteria. Perform chemistry immediately or be discarded. The woman in the 3rd century mosaic being held down and whipped, at least she knew who was doing that to her. You do not even see most of the people who reject you, and chances are that you'll never will. Just the absence of a match, just silence. First dates are the Lupercalia run. You have approximately 2 hours to prove that you're capable of intimacy of any kind. Say the right things, laugh at the right moments, touch appropriately but not too much. Read signals correctly and send the correct signals back. Perform attraction authentically. One little misstep and you're exposed, you're done. Long-term relationships aren't any easier. Valentine's Day becomes the annual test. Are you still capable of romance? Can you still perform love the way your partner enjoys it? Here is one day in the entire year where you have to prove it with the right gift, the right words, the right gestures, or you have failed. And what happens if you're a romantic or a sexual? Or just not interested in romantic relationships? The entire month of February is a reminder that you are outside the ritual, that the culture says something is missing in you, that you are not participating in a fundamental human experience, that of having a pair. Saint Valentine died performing marriages. You're terrified of performing anything wrong. Here is what I need you to understand. Valentine's Day is not a corruption of something beautiful that got commercialized. It's not, oh, it used to be about real love and now it's just this crap. No, it always has been about fear. The fear of being connected. The fear that you might be broken or left alone or have any other issue that blocks you from having intimacy. The fear that everyone else knows how to love and you do not. And the fear that you'll be completely exposed for that. Lupercalia did not exist because Romans love fertility festivals. It existed because Romans were terrified of infertility. They were terrified of dying without children, specifically back on those ages. Terrified of being the person who would not continue the family line, the bloodline, who could not pair successfully, who could not perform the most basic human function. So they created a ritual where everyone had to participate publicly, where being chosen, being stuck, being marked was proof that you were one of them. And the violence, the blood, the whipping, the force, that made it real. That made it count. Because back then, the pain proved it mattered. Saint Valentine did not die for love. He died for defying a ban on connecting people. He died because he helped people pair when that was forbidden by law. He died proving that connection was worth more than safety, more than obedience to the law, more important than life itself. And we made him a saint out of it. We declared a day to him because the fear he embodied, the fear that you will be prevented from connected, the fear that you will be punished from loving wrong, that fear is universal. The church tried to replace Lupercalia with Saint Valentine's Day in the 5th century. Pope Gelasius, I think it's his name, banned the bloody festival and established the feast day of Valentine's Day indeed. We traded the whipping for a beheading, we traded the god blood for martyr blood. Same message though. Love is dangerous and connection always has a cost. You perform it wrong and you will suffer. Except even that's not quite true. Most historians say the romantic connection to Valentine's Day did not happen until the 14th century, where Geoffrey Chaucer wrote a poem about birds choosing mates on Valentine's Day. And suddenly everyone decided February the 14th was for true romantic lovers. One poem, that's all it took. One poem and it stuck because we wanted it to stick. Because we needed a day that said, here's when you prove you're capable of love. Here's your annual test, and here is to show that you can have a human connection. And the deepest, darkest part? We keep taking the test even though we know it's rigged. There is no right way to do Valentine's Day. If you're single, you're deficient. If you're coupled and do not celebrate, you're failing. If you celebrate too hard, then you're trying too hard so you don't really believe it. If you do not celebrate enough, you're not even trying. If you opt out entirely, you're cynical and scared and damaged or wrong. Every option is wrong. Every choice exposes you somehow. Because that's what the test is designed to do. It is not designed to celebrate love. It's designed to create anxiety about love, to make you constantly question whether you're doing it right, whether you're capable or not, or even if you have got the right partner. The ritual of forced pairing from Lupercalia? Well, I have some news for you. That's online dating. Perform chemistry with a total stranger in 15 seconds or you're done. The public whipping? That's social media on its own. Perform your relationship publicly or people will assume that it's not real. The blood sacrifice. Let's see. That's the emotional labor. The constant proving, the performance of intimacy even when you're exhausted, even when you don't feel it, because if you don't perform it, you have failed. Maybe you're not capable. Saint Valentine's beheading, that's the stakes. Get love wrong and you will be punished. Not literally beheaded, but we have so many other ways. You're ghosted, you're dumped, you're divorced, you're alone. Exposed as someone who couldn't do the most basic human thing. The fear of failing at intimacy is the original Valentine's tradition. Everything else, the cards, the chocolates, the teddy bears, it's just decoration on that specific fear. So, if it's all fear, all performance anxiety, all a rigged test designed to make you feel deficient, why do we keep doing it? Why do we keep celebrating Valentine's Day? Why do we keep participating in a ritual that's designed to make us feel broken? Because underneath the fear lies something true. Connection is terrifying. Intimacy is being vulnerable. Love requires you to perform, to show up, to try, to risk being wrong, and to expose yourself as potentially wrong. And that's real. That is not the commercialization talking. That's not capitalism inventing anxiety to sell products. That's the actual difficulty of being human with another human. You do not know how to love correctly because nobody does. There is no correct. Every relationship is improvisation. Every act of intimacy is a guess. Every time you try to connect, you're risking getting it wrong. The Romans knew this. That's why they needed a violent public ritual. That's why they needed blood and whipping and forced pairing. Because the alternative, the uncertainty, the ambiguity, the constant "am I doing it right?" was unbearable. Better to have rules, better to have a test, better to know you passed or failed than to live forever in the uncertainty. Valentine knew this. That's why he kept performing marriages even when it meant death. Because the fear of being alone, the fear of being prevented from connected, was even worse than the fear of execution. Better to die connecting people than to live watching people remain separate and sad. We keep celebrating Valentine's Day because we need the test. We need the deadline. We need the external factor that says, on this day, you must attempt intimacy. You must perform love. You must risk being exposed. Because without the deadline, without that pressure, without the fear, we might never try at all. The fear is the only thing that makes us brave enough to take that test. Okay, so what do we do with this? First, recognize that you're actually afraid of. It's not, did I buy the right gifts? It's, am I capable of doing this? And the answer is, everyone is afraid of that. Everyone feels like they're going to fail at love. Everyone is performing and hoping nobody notices they do not actually know what they're doing. No matter how many times someone that presents themselves as alpha will teach you what to do. That is all rubbish. You are not broken. You have done nothing wrong. What you are is that you are uniquely a normal human. Second, understand that there is no correct way to perform love. There is no blueprint that you can apply. The ritual keeps changing from bloody whipping to diamond rings to Instagram posts because there is no ritual that actually works. There is no performance that proves that you're capable. You just keep trying, keep improvising, and you keep showing up. Third, the fear never goes away. Even in the best relationship, even with the perfect intimacy with your person, you will still sometimes wonder, am I doing it right? That is not a sign that you're failing. That is the sign that you care. That is the sign that it matters to you. Fourth, opting out is perfectly fine. If you're a romantic, if you're asexual, if you're not interested in romantic relationships or situationship or anything else, you're perfectly fine. You're not broken, you're not deficient, you're not failing the test. The test is rigged and bullshit and made to make you try. Valentine's Day is a cultural ritual, not a measure of your humanity and your capabilities. Fifth, if you do celebrate, since you know, celebrate the fear, not the performance, not the proof of capability, but the bravery of trying it anyway, no matter the result. Because here's what Valentine's Day actually is, underneath all the blood and beheading and commercialization. It's a day that says connection is scary, intimacy is vulnerable, love requires you to risk exposure, and you're all doing it anyway. You're all terrified, you're all trying to connect despite the fear. Hopefully, the last part is that you still try despite the fear. That's worth the marking. Not with goat blood or martyrdom or perfect Instagram post, but with honesty, with vulnerability, with the admission that you don't know how to do this correctly and you're willing to try anyway. You're willing to learn what the other person in front of you would like to do that day. You're not performing love on Valentine's Day. You're performing courage. Rome, 270 AD. A priest is being dragged to his execution. He's been beaten, broken, and now they're going to cut his head off. His crime was connecting people when the law was against that. In his last moment, he writes a note to someone he cared about. Even facing death, even broken and bleeding, he performs intimacy one more time. Because that's what humans do. We try to connect even when it's dangerous, even when we might be doing it wrong, even when we're terrified of the outcome. 2000 years later, more or less, you're staring at your phone, trying to figure out your Valentine's Day plans. You're anxious, you're worried you'll get it wrong, you're scared of intimacy. You're a Roman, you're in the streets with everyone else, hoping to be chosen, terrified of being left alone. You're Saint Valentine, risking everything to connect people. You're every human who ever loved badly and tried anyway. Valentine's Day is a test you can't fail because everyone is failing it. Everyone is improvising, everyone is scared, and everyone is performing. Humans try desperately to prove that they're not alone, to prove they're capable of connection, to prove that despite the fear, despite the certainty they're doing it wrong, despite everything, we can still reach out. We can still try. We can still cite that note from your Valentine and mean it. That is the tradition worth keeping, not the performance, but the courage to be there and perform anyway. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
If you made it this far, thank you. You're helping keep the light on for everyone still afraid of the dark. Subscribe, share the story, and I'll see you in the next chapter.